The wind ripped across the jagged Carrington cliffs, biting through coat and skin alike. Dust swirled, sharp and stinging, carrying a faint, coppery tang, blood, fresh somewhere, hidden but present. A lone horse snorted, stamping on the cracked earth, restless. "I belong to no one," the voice spat, defiant, raw. Shackled wrists glinted in the dying sun. Dust streaked across knuckles, across a face that had seen more pain than mercy. The rancher stood frozen, broad shoulders stiff, eyes narrowing behind sunburned skin. Disbelief and fear warred across his face. The cliff's edge seemed to hold its breath with them, the distant caw of a lone raven cutting the silence. The shackles clinked, a harsh metallic whisper of captivity, of rebellion. Her eyes burned with memory, scars, and the promise of escape. He wrestled with the weight of choices he'd long avoided, the cost of action now pressing against his ribs like the last gasp of wind before a storm. "Why now?" he rasped, voice breaking like dry wood. She laughed, bitter and short. "Because waiting makes cowards of us all." Sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretching, slithering across faces, across earth. The air thickened, charged with unsaid truths and impossible decisions. Could she reclaim her freedom against expectation, against fear, against the man who could destroy her, or himself at a glance? And could he do the right thing when the past clung so tightly to his bones? The wind rose, a scream through the canyons. A heartbeat later, the horse reared, a warning or a threat, the first move in a deadly game neither fully understood. If this twists your gut, hit subscribe. Would you stand when fear presses every inch of you down, or turn, letting the past decide your next step? Morning sneaks through the slats of the creaking barn, golden light catching dust motes like fireflies in frozen motion. The air smells of sweat, hay, and the faint tang of old blood. She crouches over a meager fire, hands red and raw from the iron chains that once dictated her every move. Memories flare, her family torn from her by a cruel landowner, nights spent hiding from men who saw her as nothing but property. Each flash cuts, sharp and relentless. Yet, a thread of resilience hums beneath her grief, stubborn as the morning sun. Outside, the rancher rides along the thawing fields, boots sinking into mud that smells of earth and old regrets. His father built this ranch on cruelty, on force, and left him a legacy he both despises and cannot escape. He tightens his jaw, eyes scanning the horizon, haunted by choices he never wanted to make. Inside the barn, tension coils like the smoke above her fire. Words come slowly, each weighed with suspicion. "Don't think your chains make you safe," he says, voice low, steady, dangerous. "I never asked for safety," she spits, voice cracking with defiance. "Just freedom." The barn groans with secrets, the boards whispering history, as both wrestle with identity, morality, and the burden of survival. Is living worth trading your soul? Can forgiveness exist when wounds are still bleeding? A sudden clatter outside, a horse stumbling, a branch snapping, pulls their eyes to the doorway. Neither moves, each pulse quickening, the sunlit plains beyond holding threats neither can fully see. What would you risk for freedom? Could you stand when every shadow reminds you of the past? Like if you'd fight your own chains, subscribe for the next twist. The afternoon sun beat down on the ranch yard, harsh and unrelenting, turning dust into clouds that swirled around the restless hooves of horses. A distant clatter of wheels announces the neighbor, his face red with rage, carrying rumors like bullets, stolen cattle, deceit, betrayal. Voices snap, accusations fly sharper than any rifle shot. "I saw her near the north pasture," the neighbor spits. "She's trouble, mark my words." She straightens, shoulders squared, eyes blazing. "I answer to no man," she says, voice steady, defiance cutting through the heat like a knife. The rancher shifts, conscience tugging, law pressing, loyalty pulling in impossible directions. Every glance, every step, loaded. A whip cracks against the fence, a gust rattles the shutters, and tension snaps tighter, like a coiled spring ready to strike. The neighbor's men edge closer, hints of violence glinting in their eyes. Capture, death, or worse. They suggest it all without saying a word. She grips the reins, muscles taut, heart pounding in rhythm with the stamping hooves. He hesitates, torn between tradition, brutality, and the faint whisper of right that nags at his gut. The scents of sweat, horseflesh, and dust thicken the air. Sunlight bounces off metal spurs, glinting like silent warnings. Thunder rolls distant across the plains, echoing the unpredictable beat of survival, a rhythm neither of them can ignore. Do laws ever justify cruelty? When does silence become betrayal? The first move could ignite a firestorm, and neither can be sure who will stand and who will fall. If this twists your gut, hit subscribe. What would you risk when the line between justice and survival blurs? Like if you'd face it head on, even with everything on the line. The afternoon sun blazed over the ranch yard, relentless, turning dust into whirlwinds around the pounding hooves of restless horses. The neighbor's wagon rattled down the lane, bringing rumors like bullets, stolen cattle, deceit, whispered threats. Voices cracked sharp as gunfire. "She's the one who did it," the neighbor snapped, eyes blazing. She lifted her chin, voice cold, steady. "I answer to no man but myself." The rancher's jaw clenched, torn between law, loyalty, and the weight of conscience. Every glance, every twitch, every step became a battlefield of wills. A whip cracked against the fence. A sudden gust rattled the shutters, dust dancing like sparks in the golden heat. The neighbor's men edged forward, eyes glinting with danger, suggesting capture or death without a word. She gripped the reins, heart hammering, muscles taut, refusing to bend. He hesitated, knowing the choice could define him, could stain his soul, and yet the tradition of brutality whispered its lure. The scents of sweat, horse flesh, and dust thickened the air. Sunlight caught metal spurs, flashing warnings like fire. Thunder rolled distant across the plains, echoing the chaos building in their chests. Survival was a gamble, morality a shadowy line neither wanted to cross. Do laws ever justify cruelty? When does silence become betrayal? Every second stretched, tension strumming a rhythm neither could ignore. The wind whipped dust into their eyes. The neighbor leaned closer, brickies, murk curling. Something had to break first, and it wouldn't be gentle. Night fell like a velvet curtain, swallowing the ranch in shadow, the wind whispering through broken fences like mournful ghosts. Then, a scream split the silence, raw and terrified. Her friend, a fellow fugitive, caught in a struggle near the corral, thrown to the earth by harsh hands. Panic clawed at the rancher's chest as he froze, helpless, watching the chaos unfold. She bolted, chains forgotten, feet pounding dirt, eyes wide with fury and fear. The clash was a storm, metal spurs glinting, hooves stamping, a shot tearing through the night. Smoke curled, acrid and suffocating, and blood seeped into the earth, leaving footprints that would not fade. Lives lost in a heartbeat, innocence shattered, the price of freedom etched in crimson. He gasped, guilt gnawing at his ribs. Hesitation had done this. Could he have acted sooner? Could he have saved them? She started, voice trembling. I can't let this be for nothing. The wind carried the metallic tang of blood, the sharp bite of gunpowder, and the echo of broken hope. Survivor's remorse pressed heavy on her shoulders, weighing each step, each breath. Courage and grief tangled, a brutal knot of what must be done next. Is justice worth revenge? Can courage survive grief? Every heartbeat thunders in the night, every shadow a warning. The path forward is treacherous, inevitable. Dawn cracked over the desolate plains, pale and biting, painting frost on the grass and trembling in the reins of restless horses. Dust clung to sweat-slicked skin, the scent of fear thick in the cold air. Every shadow promised a threat, every heartbeat a reckoning. She and the rancher faced the assailants, the morning light revealing faces twisted with malice, hands twitching near weapons, eyes bright with the promise of violence. Not today, she whispered, voice low, teeth gritted, fire coiling in her chest. He tightened his grip on his rifle, breath fogging, conscience straining. We end this here, or it ends us. The confrontation ignited, raw and immediate. Hooves thundered, metal clanged, and the sharp intake of breath punctuated every choice. Words cut as deep as bullets, accusations, defiance, morality tested under an unforgiving sky. She moved with calculated fury, grief turned into strategy, rage sharpened into precision. He stepped from moral paralysis into courage, acting where hesitation had cost so much. A man lunged to finish what the night had begun, and she disarmed him, hands shaking, heart hammering, the taste of iron and fear thick on her tongue. Time slowed, The cold wind stung lungs, dust blinding eyes, sweat and dirt mixing into gritty armor. Every choice held weight, vengeance or mercy, destruction or honor. Does revenge heal, or does it poison the soul? Can courage bloom in the soil of grief? The plains held their answer in silence and dust, the morning witnessing both brutality and beauty in every action. If this twists your gut, hit subscribe. What would you risk for honor, for freedom, for the life you've clawed back from shadows, like if you'd stand and face the storm, no matter the cost? The sun sank low, spilling burnished orange across the quieted ranch. Shadows stretched long over the aftermath, bodies and silence, stark reminders of the price paid. Yet life persisted. Horses pawed at the earth, wind stirred loose hay, and the acrid scent of smoke faded into memory. She walked free, chains abandoned, boots crunching dirt, gaze distant but steady. Loss lingered behind her eyes, tempered by survival. The rancher watched, shoulders heavy, understanding that true freedom exacts personal sacrifice. He tipped his hat, a silent nod, acknowledging choices made, lives altered forever. "You're free," he said softly, voice rough with gravel and emotion. "And it costs too much," she whispered, letting the weight of it settle, letting grief and courage share the same breath. The barn creaked, the plains sighed, and the wind whispered through splintered fences like a quiet witness. Gunpowder's sting had faded, replaced by dust and memory. They had survived, but survival alone was hollow without redemption, without meaning in what had been lost. Hope felt fragile, yet it glimmered faintly in the horizon, a promise of mornings yet to come. Could survival alone ever be enough? Does redemption come at the price of everything you hold dear? The plains held the answers in silence, leaving only reflection, ache, and a bitter sweetness that wrapped around hearts like a stubborn wind. If this story stays with you, hit subscribe. What would you carry forward from such fire, grief, courage, or the stubborn spark of freedom? Like if you'd walk into tomorrow with scars and defiance alike,